Hey guys, I just want to take a quick moment to talk about the new hashtag that's been trending, hashtag mobwife aesthetic and hashtag mobwife. So, this hashtag's actually going to make a huge difference in the fur community just because it is going to change the price of fur, and a lot of us don't like that. And I don't want to be gatekeepy because, I actually really do like the fact that young women all over are getting into buying vintage furs, and that might open up the doors a little bit to, oh, maybe we shouldn't be closing down all of these fur farms, and maybe we should support ethical fur instead of Chinese fur. Another thing about this mob wife aesthetic that worries me is that people might end up buying cheap Chinese fur. I've noticed some ads on Instagram that are selling coats like these. So I got scammed when I purchased this coat. I was looking for an affordable European fur. I went to a website called Damus Furry, purchased the coat for Christmas. Actually, my dad got it for me. It was $500 Canadian. It was listed in euros though. Once I got the coat, I loved it, and then I ended up going on AliExpress and I saw this exact same coat on sale for $250 from a Chinese fur farm. So with a lot of people buying furs and possibly wanting new furs out there, I always vouch go vintage before you go Chinese, go European before you go Chinese, never buy Chinese fur. And a lot of these websites that are offering affordable fur options are actually just taking advantage of a loophole that has to do with the legalities of clothing manufacturing. So in the United States and Canada, if I buy this coat, or say I buy a lot of 500 cashmere sweaters at $50 a piece, low quality cashmere, but it is real cashmere. If I then rent an apartment in Italy, I can ship all 500 of those scarves there, and then I can sit in my apartment and I can sew tags on them that say made in Italy by Tadesque, essentially putting a brand name on it. And because I did make that tag in Italy and sew it on in Italy, I can now market that as an Italian piece of fabric. Same thing happened to this coat. So this coat was bought from China, sent over to Europe, and what the company was doing was they were offering tailoring, and so they offered tailoring on the website, but they posted that being tailoring wasn't available at this point in time, so I couldn't get the coat custom tailored in Italy for me. But because the option was there, they were able to market it as a European, it wasn't Italian, it was just marketed as a European fur. And they also sewed the tag on. Where's that Damus Furry tag? There it is. That tag right there. Don't buy that company. So for all the people enjoying hashtag mobwife aesthetic, please do your research on furs. Don't buy Chinese. Don't buy from a non-reputable source. Buy vintage. Go on eBay. See what's out there. And if you do want to buy new, talk to people. Just message the seller and be like, hey, where'd this come from? If they can't tell you the origin of the fur, it's not fucking worth it. There's even a fur store here in Calgary that I have gone to, and I asked them, hey, where do you guys get your foxes? And they're like, oh, we just get them from our dealer. We can't tell you where. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to buy your fucking foxes then. I'm going to buy your lambskins and stuff because I know those are farmed here in Canada because we have lots of sheep and lamb farming, but I'm not going to buy those foxes. I'm not going to buy the buffalo. I'm not going to buy the otter and the beaver and the mink. I'm not going to buy those skins if I don't know where they're coming from, because it's entirely possible for non-reputable fur sellers to buy 100 mink, ship them to Canada, and then just be like, oh, we just get them from our dealer. I think it's Native American, but it's not actually. So, yeah, hashtag mobwife aesthetic is going to make the price of used furs skyrocket. Vespucci used to have $300 mink skin coats. All those coats are now minimum $450. I bought a fox fur coat for $500 there with the help of my father because it was Christmas and he bought it for me. That coat wouldn't be anything less than $1,000 there now because there's such a boom in popularity. And when I was researching fur, probably around 2021, fur was more popular amongst people in my age group, 23, than it had been like for decades before. Like it just wasn't that popular in the 2000s, in the 90s, in the 80s. Like it was dying off in its popularity in the 80s. And now with this hashtag mob wife aesthetic, there's lots of women out there buying used furs. They're loving it. I just hope that they're buying ethical furs. I hope that when they do want to buy new, that they do the research. And you know what? Maybe you can't afford that $10,000 lynx skin coat from Europe, but you sure as hell can afford the $5,000 lynx skin coat from fucking China. But is it worth it? Because the moment you do that, you're contributing to every single animal that is in those PETA videos that's actually getting hurt. Because a lot of people think those like PETA videos represent all fur farms. They don't. In Europe, they're primarily put down through carbon monoxide poisoning or veterinary euthanasia. So the way that works is, instead of having to take each mink per se out of its cage to euthanize it and then put it onto the processing line, basically you just have the entire warehouse that's filled with minks, and they stay in their cages where they've lived comfortably their entire lives, and then you pump carbon monoxide into the entire environment, the entire barn. And if we know anything about carbon monoxide poisoning, basically it causes you to become very fatigued, very sleepy. You go to sleep, you don't wake up. So it's a very ethical way to put things down. Whereas in Asia, if you are dealing with like maybe the raccoon dogs, they use a method called anal electrocution, where they put a prong that's electric in their mouth and on their rear, and they zap them, which stuns them, and then they skin them, and they might not even be dead by the time they are being skinned. And there has been videos of like these raccoon dogs lifting their head in piles of bodies, looking around without skin on, and it's very gruesome. And why would I support that? Because that's really messed up. But those things aren't happening in European fur farms. They're not happening in Canada, because we have ethics laws in place and we have respect for animals, unlike Chinese fur farmers who just kind of treat them like a product meant for manufacturing. Whereas if I'm going to start a fox farm in Canada, I have legal standards I need to hold up to. I need to make sure their cages are big enough. I need to make sure their feet aren't on wire grates all days. I need to make sure that they have a burrow in order for them to hide and feel secure and comfortable. A lot of these foxes also live in communal living settings, and they are social. So like, I don't know everything about fox farming, but I have done enough research to know where some ethical fur is country-wise and know where unethical fur is coming from. So if you're buying fur off of AliExpress, I've even bought fur off of AliExpress before in my very early days of buying fur, and I regret it. Sure, I got a fox fur, like, I got this, well actually I got this from Davis Furry, so I didn't get this from AliExpress. I got this for $500 fucking and was scammed, even though it's still from AliExpress. Still fucking suffering skins here. Mr. Snooty, for example, was bought from AliExpress legitimately. Like, I bought him from AliExpress, and I like the way he looks, but also he came from a fur manufacturer that probably mistreated him when he was alive. So I'm not going to do that again. Mistake was made, lesson was learned. I can be honest and open about these things. Whereas like my fox fur coat, that was Canadian. I have the Eaton Sapphire Mink skin, that was Canadian. My raccoon fur coat, Canadian. Like, just buy local. There's lots of people out here, like if you're Canadian, there's Native Americans that make money off of fur every single fucking year, and these animals grew up in the wild and were hunted instead of living in a cage, which is even better. And people can cry, oh, the environment. So long as the animal isn't endangered, I don't see a problem with hunting it. For example, I'm trying to think of Canada Goose. Canada Goose Company quit using coyote fur on the trim of their hoods. I think that's silly because coyotes are invasive everywhere north of New Mexico. They shouldn't exist in Canada, so any coyote that's being hunted is a net positive. So another reason why fur can be good, it helps limit the amount of invasive species that are just able to take over. And if coyotes have good quality fur, I'm willing to fucking put down some coyotes to have nice fur things that are also a benefit to the environment. Another reason why Mob Wife is going to be kind of good, so long as people aren't buying cheap Chinese furs, is it's going to open the doors to people actually noticing the quality of fur. Why would somebody buy a piece of plastic when they realize the quality of a fox skin coat? And then maybe when that girl grows up and has the money to buy a new fur, they're going to go out and buy a new Canadian fur. instead of hopefully Chinese furs or more used furs, and we will keep these fur companies alive, because you have to buy new to keep fur companies alive. The fur company makes no money if you're buying used, so there's that. So hopefully Mob Wife Aesthetic helps fur companies in that, because there's been some fox farmers that have shut down. We're never going to get some of those pelts back. Like, there are smoky ringnecks and stuff. Like, there are certain coat colors that are only in certain farms. When those farms shut down, we never get to see those coats ever again. So hopefully Mob Wife Aesthetic helps protect those farms and like bring life into them, because we need it so bad. Anyways, because I'm in the car right before my shift talking about fur, I'm gonna end this off, and hope everybody has a beautiful Monday, and make sure you buy ethical, Canadian, European, American, quality furs, no Chinese.